before diving into the details of Minions and Monster 2026, it is worth taking a moment to consider why a movie like this deserves attention. Animated films are often introduced with the assumptions that they are made only for children, but modern animation has become a much broader and more ambitious form of filmmaking. Movies in this space can combine comedy, fantasy, adventure, spectacle, and emotional themes while using animation to create worlds that would be impossible or extremely difficult to produce through traditional live action filmmaking. That is one reason it is an interesting movie to discuss. Its appeal is connected not only to its entertainment value but also to the creative possibilities offered by its genre and production style. The movie sits within a style of family oriented animated entertainment that has become one of the most commercially recognizable form of modern cinema. Animation follows filmmaker to exaggerate movement, create unusual environment, and design visual experience that do not have to follow the physical limitation of the real world. A film built around the combination of playful animated energy and fantastical monster imagery has the potential to create a visually imaginative experience. The genre itself suggests a mixture of light-hearted humor, fantasy elements, and large-scale adventure, making it suitable for audience looking for something energetic and accessible. One of the interesting things to consider in a film like this is the balance between comedy and spectacle. Comedy in animation work differently from comedy in many live action films because animated characters and environment can react in exaggerated and visually inventive ways. Timing, physical movement, sound design, facial expression, and editing all become important tools. A simple moment can become memorable because the filmmaker have complete control over the visual world. At the same time, the inclusion of fantastical or monstrous element can expand the scale of the production, giving the film opportunity for impressive environment, unusual design, and visually dynamic sequences. The production style is therefore an important part of the discussion. Modern animated movies are rarely simple production. Behind the colorful images is a long process involving concept art, character and environmental design, story development, voice recording, animation, lighting, visual effect, editing and sound. Each department contributes to the final experience. The audience may see a bright and playful world on screen, but the world is a result of detailed planning and technical work. This makes animation can especially fascinating subject from a filmmaking perspective. The direction of a movie also play a major role in determining how these different elements come together. A director must establish the overall tone of the film and decide how comedy, fantasy, action and emotion should work alongside one another. In a production with a highly stylized visual identity, direction is not limited to simply guiding performances. It also influencing pacing, visual composition, atmosphere and the rhythm of the entire movie. The creative leadership behind an animated feature can therefore shape how audience experience every major aspect of the production. Another reason this movie is worth discussing is the continuing popularity of large-scale animated entertainment. Audience today expect more than colorful visual. They expect polished animation, effective humor, imaginative world building, strong pacing and a cinematic experience that can entertain different age group. This create a challenging standard for filmmaker. A successful animated movie must often appeal to younger viewers while still providing enough creativity and sophistication to keep older audience engaged. So as we being looking at the film, the most interesting starting point is not the story itself, but the filmmaking approach behind it. Its genre create expectation of humor and fantasy, while its animated production style open the door to visual imagination and technical creativity. The role of the director and the production team is crucial in bringing these elements together into one coherent cinematic experience. Whether the final film fully succeeds or not, it provides an opportunity to discuss how modern animation continue to evolve and why imaginative family-focused movies remain an important part of the global film industry. When examining the production budget of the film, it is important to being with a limitation unless an official budget figure has been publicly confirmed by the studio or filmmaker. Any financial estimate should be treated as an approximation rather than a verified number. Large animated production often involve substantial investment because of their long development cycle, advanced technology, extensive creative team, voice recording, animation, visual effect, music, and worldwide marketing preparation. A neutral analysis therefore requires separating confirmed financial information from estimate based on comparable film. Based on the scale generally associated with major studio animated features, it could reasonably be expected to have a production budget in the broad range of approximately $80 million to $150 million, depending on the final length of production, the animation technology used, and the level of visual complexity. This range should not be interpreted as an officially confirmed figure. Instead, it provides a framework for understanding the possible financial requirement of a modern theatrical animated movie. A significant portion of the budget for a production of this type would likely be allocated to animation and technical development. Unlike live action filmmaking, where production expenses may be concentrated around physical locations, sets, equipment, shooting schedule, animation requires years of work across multiple development. Artists and technicians may spend extensive period developing visual concept, modeling environment, creating textures, animated mating movement, designing lighting, and refining individual sequences. The more detailed and visually ambitious the film becomes, the greater the potential cost. Another important area of resource allocation would be pre-production. Before the final animation process being, filmmaker typically invest in script development, story broadening, concept art, visual research, and early design work. These stages can require considerable time because major changes made late in animation are often expensive. Careful planning at the beginning can help control cost, although large production may still undergo revision as creative decisions evolve. Voice performance and sound production would represent another part of the budget. High profile animated films sometimes employ well known actors, which can increase cost depending on contract and recording schedules. However, voice talent is only one element of the audio budget. Music composition, orchestral recording, sound effect editing, mixing, and final audio mastering also requires specialized professional and technical resources. The movie budget can also be compared with other animated films. Large studio production frequently operate with budgets exceeding $100 million, particularly when they involve detailed computer animation and internationally recognized franchises. At the same time, some animated features are produced for considerably less by using smaller team, more controlled visual style, or efficient production pipeline. Therefore, the final cost of the film would depend heavily on whether it follows the financial model of a major franchise production or a more moderately budgeted animated projects. It is also necessary to distinguish between production budget and the total financial investment. Marketing and distribution costs are often separate from the reported production budget. A studio may spend substantial additional resources on trailer, advertising campaign, promotional partnership, international releases, and theatrical distribution. As a result, the amount needed for a film to become profitable can be significantly higher than its reported production cost alone. Overall, with an officially verified budget, the financial scale of the film would be discussed cautiously. An animated range can provide useful context, but it should not be presented as a confirmed act. The movie's likely spending would be concentrated on animation technology, creative development, technical labor, voice production, sound, and post production. Compared with similar large-scale animated film, its potential budget would depend primarily on production complexity, franchise involvement, and the resources available to the studio behind the project. The genre and the overall mood of the film can be understood primarily through its apparent combination of animation, comedy, fantasy, and family-oriented entertainment. This type of film is designed to operate on multiple levels using colorful visual imagination and broad humor while maintaining an accessible tone for viewers of different age. Rather than relying on realism, its stylistic identity is likely shaped by exaggeration, playful visual design, energetic movement, and a cinematic approach that allow fantasy element to become the part of the movie's central atmosphere. The overall mood is expected to be predominantly light-hearted and playful, although the presence of monster and the fantasy imagery can introduce moments of tension, mystery, or visual intensity. In family animation, these contrasting moods are often carefully controlled. The film can move from a humorous and cheerful atmosphere into darker or more suspenseful imagery without knowing genuinely disturbing. This tonal flexibility is one of the advantages of the animated filmmaking, allowing the production to create visual contrast while remaining suitable for a broad audience. Comedy is likely to be an important part of the film's stylistic approach. Animated comedy often depends heavily on physical movement, timing, exaggerated reactions and effects, and visual surprises. Because animation is not restricted by the limitation of live action filmmaking, filmmaker can create unusual movement and impossible situation purely for comic effect. This can give the movie a fast and predictable rhythm, particularly during moments designed to maintain the attention of younger audience. At the same time, the fantasy and the monster related elements can contribute to a more visually adventurous atmosphere. Production design becomes especially important in establishing this mood. The use of unusual shape, exaggerated movement, imaginative creature, dramatic scale, and distinctive lighting can help separate the movie from ordinary animated comedy. Depending on the creative choices of the filmmaker, the visual world may alternate between bright, welcoming imagery and darker, more atmospheric setting. This contrast can create variety without changing the film's overall family-friendly identity. Pacing is another major component of the movie's expected tone. Modern animated features generally maintain a relatively active pace, particularly when targeting younger and family audience. Scenes are often structured to avoid long periods of inactivity, with visual movement and comedy helping to maintain momentum. However, effective pacing also requires variation. If every moment is presented at the same high level of imagery, the experience can become repetitive. A balanced animated production therefore benefit from quieter sections that allow the audience to absorb the atmosphere before returning to more energetic sequences. Stylistically, it appears positioned within the polished tradition of contemporary or computer animation. This usually emphasizes detailed textures, expressive movement, carefully designed lighting, and visually distinctive environment. The animation itself style can influence the emotional tone of the movie. Smooth and exaggerated movement encourage a playful mood, while dramatic shadow, large-scale environment, or unusual creature design can introduce a strong sense of fantasy and spectacle. Sound and music would also play an important role in shaping the atmosphere. Fast-paced comedic sequences also depend on precise sound timing, while fantasy-oriented moments can benefit from larger musical arrangement and more dramatic sound design. The contrast between playful audio and atmospheric musical cue can help the movie shift smoothly between comedy, adventure, and mild suspense. Overall, the genre and the mood of the film suggest a production built around energetic animated comedy with fantasy influences and broad family appeal. Its atmosphere is likely to depend on the contrast between colorful playfulness and moment of heightened visual intensity. The pacing would be expected to remain active, while the stylistic choice of animation, sound design, and exaggerated movement would define much of its identity. The result is a genre combination intended to provide accessible entertainment while using the creative freedom of animation to create a visually imaginative cinematic experience. Before watching the film, audiences are likely to approach the movie with different expectations depending on their age, familiarity with animated entertainment, and personal preferences for a comedy and fantasy. The title and apparent genre combination create an expectation of a colorful, energetic, and accessible cinematic experience. For many viewers, particularly families and younger audience, the main expectation would probably be entertainment that combine humor, imaginative visual, and fast-moving presentation. Children are likely to expect a movie filled with visually memorable animation, exaggerated comedy, and playful atmosphere. Younger viewers generally respond strongly to colorful environment, expressive animation, physical humor, and distinctive visual design. From this perspective, audience may expect the film to provide an experience that is easy to follow and consistently engaging. The expectation would not necessarily be for complex realism but rather for creativity, momentum, and entertainment. Parents and family audience may have somewhat different expectation. While children may focus primarily on humor and visual excitement, adults watching alongside them often expect a movie that remains enjoyable across different engaging. The expectation would not necessarily be for complex realism but rather for creativity, movement, and entertainment. Parents and family audience may have somewhat different expectations, while children may focus primarily on humor and visual excitement. Adults watching alongside them often expect a movie that remains enjoyable across different age groups. A successful family-oriented animated film usually include humorous stylistic detail that can be appealed to older viewers without making the overall experience inappropriate for younger audience. Therefore, some viewers may expect a balance between simple entertainment and a level of creativity that prevent the movie from feeling exclusively designed for children. Fan of animated comedy may approach the film with expectation related to pacing and humor. They may anticipate energetic scene, visual jokes, exaggerated reaction, and to playful tone. Because modern animated movies compete in a crowded entertainment market, audience may also expect a polished production style, High quality computer animation, detailed environment, expressive design, and effective sound work have become standard expectation for many major animated releases. Genre fans who enjoy fantasy and monster theme entertainment may expect a stronger sense of visual imagination. The word monsters naturally suggests unusual design, imaginative setting, and elements that move beyond ordinary reality. These viewers may hope for a distinctive atmosphere rather than a generic animated comedy. They may be interested in how the movie combines cheerful animation with a darker, mysterious, or a more visually dramatic fantasy elements while maintaining an accessible overall tone. There is also likely to be an expectation of familiarity. Audience who recognize the Minion's name may bring previous experience and established opinion into the theater. Such viewer may expect a particular type of humor, visual energy, and animation style associated with that brand of entertainment. This can be both an advantage and a challenge. Familiarity can generate immediate interest, but it can also create higher expectation regarding originality and equality. Ultimately, audience expectation for the film would likely center on family-friendly entertainment, animated comedy, fantasy-inspired visual, and energetic pacing. Younger viewer may expect fun and spectacle, while adult may look for creativity and entertainment that work across generations. Fan of animation and fantasy may also hope that the movie offer a distinctive visual identity. Whether those expectations are met would depend largely on the quality of its humor, animation, atmosphere, and the overall creative execution. It appeared to be designed primarily for a broad family audience, with particular appeal for children, younger teenagers, and viewers who enjoy animated comedy and fantasy. The combination suggested by its title and genre create the expectation of a movie that aims to be visually accessible, energetic, and entertaining rather than serious or realistic in tone. The most obvious target age group would likely be children and pre-teens. Younger viewers are often drawn to animation because of its colorful presentation, expressive design, fast-paced movement, and visual humor. A movie with a playful fantasy atmosphere can offer an experience that is easy to engage with without requiring an interest in realistic drama or complex filmmaking. For this audience, the visual style, comedy, sound effect, and overall energy may be more important than subtitle or mature themes. The film could also appeal to families watching together. Family oriented animated movies are often designed to provide entertainment across several age groups at the same time. Children may respond to the physical comedy and colorful visuals, while teenagers and adults may appreciate the production quality, animation technique, humor, and imaginative design. This makes the movie potentially suitable for parents looking for entertainment that can be shared with younger family members. Fans of animated comedy would also represent an important part of the target audience. These viewers generally enjoy exaggerated movement, visual joke, energetic pacing, and a light-hearted atmosphere. They may not necessarily be looking for a serious or emotionally demanding cinematic experience. Instead, they may prefer a movie that provides an easygoing escape and maintain a consistent sense of fun. The fantasy element also broadens the potential audience. Viewers who enjoy monster, imaginative, creative, unusual environment, and stylized world may find the concept appealing. These genre preferences can attract the audience beyond the youngest age group, particularly those who appreciate animation as a visual art form. Modern animated movies often use advanced technology to create detailed environment and expressive imagery, making them attractive to viewers interested in animation quality as much as the entertainment itself. Teenager may be another secondary audience, especially those who already enjoy animated franchise, comedy, and fantasy based entertainment. However, we were looking for realistic drama, psychological complexity, slow paced storytelling, or highly mature thing may not be the primary audience for this type of movie. Its likely emphasis on broad entertainment and visual creativity may not appeal equally to every viewer. Overall, it appears best suited to children, pre-teens, family, animation fans, and viewers who enjoy comedy and fantasy. It is likely intended for people looking for a visually imaginative and light-hearted movie experience. Genre preferences play an important role. Audience who enjoy animated humor and fantastical setting may find the concept more appealing, while viewers who prefer serious, realistic, or adult-oriented cinema may be less interested. The movie's broadest strength as a potential audience experience would be its ability to offer accessible entertainment across multiple age groups without requiring a specific interest in complex or dramatic filmmaking. The emotional experience promised by the film appeared to be centered primarily on fun, amusement, curiosity, and light-hearted excitement. As an animated film with comedy and fantasy elements, its overall emotional appeal is likely designed to provide an enjoyable escape from everyday reality. Rather than creating a consistently serious or emotionally heavy atmosphere, the movie seemed positioned to take audience through changing mood while maintaining an accessible and entertaining tone. The strongest emotional quality is likely to be playfulness. Animated comedy often creates enjoyment through exaggerated movement, visual humor, unexpected reaction, and energetic timing. These realistic choices can produce a sense of spontaneity, encouraging audience to relax and enjoy the experience without approaching every moment with serious expectation. For younger viewers, this playful mood may be one of the film's main attraction, while older audience may appreciate the creativity and technical skill behind the presentation. Another important part of the emotional experience is likely to be the curiosity and imagination. Fantasy and monster related imagery can create a sense of discovery by presenting unusual design, unfamiliar environment, and visually imaginative concept. Even without relying on realism, a well designed animated world can make the audience feel immersed in its atmosphere. This sense of visual curiosity can be especially effective for viewers who enjoy animation as a creative medium and appreciate the freedom it gives filmmakers. The movie may also introduce moments of child tension and excitement. The inclusion of fantasy-oriented elements suggests that the atmosphere does not need to remain cheerful at every moment. Change in lighting, music, sound design, and pacing can create temporary feeling of suspense or anticipation. However, within a broadly family-oriented production, these moments would likely be balanced carefully so that the overall experience remains accessible rather than frightening or emotionally overwhelming. In terms of theme, the intended emotional impact may come from broad and relatable ideas commonly found in family entertainment. Themes such as friendship, cooperation, acceptance, courage, belonging, and facing unfamiliar situations can create emotional engagement without requiring the film to adopt a serious dramatic tone. These kind of themes are effective because they can connect with viewers across different age groups. Children may respond to them directly, while adults may recognize the wider emotional meaning behind them. The film's emotional rhythm is also likely to depend on contrast. Constant comedy can eventually lose its effect, just as continuous tension can become exhausting. A suspenseful animated feature usually creates variation between humorous, exciting, curious, and more reflective mood. These changing emotional pace help maintain audience engagement and give the overall experience a sense of progression. Ultimately, it promises an emotional experience built around entertainment, imagination, laughter, curiosity, and accessible emotional themes. Its intended impact is likely to be positive and uplifting, with inner fantasy driven atmosphere and occasional tension to prevent the tone from becoming repetitive. For its target audience, the ideal result would be a movie that feels visually imaginative, emotionally easy to engage with, and enjoyable for viewers seeking a mixture of animated comedy and fantasy. At its most abstract level, it appeared to be built around the idea of encouraging the unfamiliar and discovering how individuals respond when they are placed outside their unusual sense of comfort and uncertainty. The concept uses a colorful, animated, fantasy oriented framework to explore broad ideas that can be understood by viewers of different age rather than depending solely on spectacle or comedy. The underlying story concept has the potential to address themes connected with different acceptance, cooperation, courage, and adaptation. One of the central ideas suggested by the concept is the contrast between what appears familiar and what appears strange. Fantasy and monster imagery often provide filmmakers with a symbolic way to explore the human tendency to react cautiously to the unknown. Something unusual may initially be viewed as frightening, confusing, or difficult to understand simply because it does not fit established expectation. In this sense, the movie's broader message can be connected to the importance of looking beyond first impression. Another possible theme is acceptance. Family oriented animated films frequently use imaginative setting and unusual design to communicate ideas that would otherwise be presented through a realistic social situation. The contrast between different personalities, appearance, or way of thinking can become a metaphor for diversity and understanding. The core message is not necessarily that everyone must be the same, but that difference do not automatically prevent connection or cooperation. The idea of working together despite differences also fit naturally with this type of story concept. Animated fantasy often places contrasting elements side by side, creating opportunity to examine how separate perspectives can complement one another. This can communicate a simple but effective message. Individual strength may be limited when isolated, while cooperation can create responsibility that would not exist otherwise. Such a theme is especially appropriate for a family audience because it can be understood on both an entertaining and symbolic level. Courage is another important concept that may shape the movie's central message. In this concept, courage does not have to mean physical strength or dramatic heroism. It can also refer to the willingness to face unfamiliar experience, reconsider assumption, and accept change. This interpretation gives the concept a broader emotional meaning. The challenge is not simply external, it can also involve overcoming uncertainty and becoming more open to new possibilities. The use of animation and fantasy is significant because it allows these ideas to be presented in a playful and visually imaginative form. Humor can make serious themes easier to approach, while exaggerated design and fantastical imagery can transform abstract concepts into something accessible for younger audience. At the same time, older viewer may recognize broader messages beneath the surface level entertainment. The core idea of the film can be understood as an exploration of how differences, unfamiliarity, and change can become opportunities for understanding rather than deviance. Its potential theme include acceptance, cooperation, courage, and open-mindedness. The story concept appeared designed to combine these messages with animated comedy and fantasy, creating an experience in which entertainment and thematic meaning can exist alongside one another without requiring the film to become overly serious or dictated. The central conflict of the film can be discussed in abstract terms as a tension between fear and understanding, individual instinct and collective responsibility, and comfort and change. Rather than focusing on specific event, the broader conflict appears suited to a family-oriented fantasy framework in which challenges are not only physical or external but can also involve attitude, choices, and moral decisions. One important source of tension is the way individuals respond to what they do not fully understand. The unfamiliar can create uncertainty, and uncertainty often lead to assumption. This creates a moral dilemma: should a person react according to fear and instinct, or take the time to understand a situation before making a judgment? In an animated fantasy setting, this type of conflict can be presented through exaggerated imagery and humor while still carrying a meaningful message about prejudice, misunderstanding, and open mindedness. Another central challenge involves the conflict between self-interest and cooperation. Character or group in a story of this kind may be required to consider whether personal goals should take priority over a larger shared responsibility. This creates tension because cooperation is not always easy. Different perspectives, personalities, and priorities can make collective action difficult. The moral question becomes whether individuals are willing to compromise, listen, and contribute for a purpose greater than their immediate interest. The theme of acceptance versus rejection can also form an important layer of the central conflict. People often find comfort in what feels familiar and predictable. Anything different can be viewed with suspicion, even what they then reaction is not justified. The conflict therefore becomes more than a simple struggle between opposing sides. It becomes a question of whether assumption can be challenged. The emotional tension comes from the possibility that fewer understanding may create unnecessary division. Another challenge concerns courage and responsibility. Courage in this context does not simply mean facing danger, it can mean accepting responsibility when avoiding a problem would be easier. It can involve admitting mistake, reconsidering an opinion, or taking action despite uncertainty. This creates a more meaningful form of tension because the difficult choice is often internal. The audience can understand that doing the right thing may require discomfort, sacrifice, or willingness to change. The conflict may also explore the tension between chaos and control. In a playful animated environment, disorder can be a major source of comedy, but it can also create genuine dramatic pressure. The challenge lies in finding balance. Too much control can limit creativity and individuality, while complete disorder can make cooperation impossible. This creates an interesting thematic contrast between freedom and responsibility. From a storytelling perspective, the central conflict is likely designed to operate on several levels. Younger viewers can understand the immediate challenge and emotional tension, while older audience may recognize broader theme involving trust, acceptance, teamwork, and moral responsibility. This layer approach is common in successful family entertainment because it allows the movie to remain accessible without becoming entirely simplistic. Overall, the central conflict of the film can be understood as a struggle involving fear versus understanding, individual desire versus collective responsibility, and resistance versus acceptance. The tension is strengthened by moral dilemmas that require choices rather than simple reaction. The broader message suggests that challenges are not always solved through strength alone. Understanding, cooperation, courage, and a willingness to question one assumption can be equally important in resolving conflict and overcoming division. It can be discussed through several broad themes that fit naturally with an animated fantasy and comedy framework. Beneath its light-hearted visual style, the movie has the potential to explore questions about acceptance, responsibility, cooperation, identity, and the way people respond to difference. These themes can give the film's emotional and ethical depth while keeping its overall presentation accessible to a family audience. One important ethical question concerns how people judge what they do not understand. The unfamiliar can easily create fear, suspicion, or misunderstanding. This raises a simple but meaningful question: is it right to judge something based only on appearance, reputation, or first impression? The movie's fantasy oriented concept provides an opportunity to explore the consequence of assumption without presenting the subject in an overly serious or complicated way. The broader message may encourage viewers to look beyond surface level differences and approach unfamiliar people or situations with greater openness. Another major theme is acceptance. This idea can operate on both an individual and social level. Acceptance involves recognizing the difference in appearance, behavior, personality, or perspective do not automatically create separation. The film can use its imaginative world to make this theme visually clear, turning unusual design and contrasting personalities into symbol of diversity. For younger audience, the message may be simple and direct, while older viewer may interpret it as a broader reflection on inclusion and tolerance. The emotional dimension of the movie may also involve personal growth and adaptation. Emotional arc in family-oriented animation often focus on learning, changing, and becoming more capable of understanding others. The important theme is not perfection but development. Individual may be required to confront uncertainty, overcome personal limitation, or reconsider previously held belief. This creates emotional meaning because growth usually involves discomfort. The film's message may suggest that change is not always easy, but it can lead to a greater confidence and understanding. Cooperation and shared responsibility are also likely to be significant theme. A common ethical dilemma involves the choice between acting only for personal benefit and contributing to a greater collective purpose. The movie can explore the idea that difference do not necessarily prevent people from working together. In fact, contrasting abilities and perspective can become strength when individuals learn to cooperate. This theme promotes values such as teamwork, trust, compromise, and mutual respect. From a cultural perspective, the broader theme may connect with contemporary discussion about diversity, belonging, and coexistence. Although presenting through an animated fantasy setting, these ideas can reflect real world concern about how communities respond to people who appear different or do not fit traditional expectations. The movie does not need to directly address specific cultures or social groups for these themes to remain relevant. Instead, its imaginative framework can function as a symbolic way of discussing universal experience of inclusion and exclusion. Overall, the theme explored in the film can be understood as a combination of ethical question, emotional growth, and socially relevant ideas. Question about judgment, acceptance, responsibility, and cooperation provide moral depth, while themes of change and personal development create emotional resonance. Its cultural relevance lies in the broader message that difference can become a source of understanding and strength when approached with empathy, curiosity, and respect. The emotional connection of the film is likely to come from the way its mood, theme, and the overall viewing experience work together. Although the film appeared to be built around animation, comedy, and fantasy, emotional engagement does not necessarily depend on a serious or dramatic tone. A light-hearted movie can still connect with viewers by creating feeling of joy, curiosity, tension, warmth, and personal identification. One of the stronger aspects of the emotional experience is likely to be its playful mood. Humor can create an immediate connection between a movie and its audience because laughter encourages viewers to relax and become involved in the experience. Visual comedy, exaggerated reaction, energetic timing, and imaginative animation can make the audience feel that they are participating in a world designed to entertain them. For younger viewers, this sense of fun may be the primary emotional attraction, while adults may appreciate the creative witty behind the humor and presentation. The fantasy atmosphere can create a different kind of connection through curiosity and imagination. Viewers are often emotionally engaged when a film presents them with something visually unfamiliar or creatively distinctive. Unusual design and imaginative setting can create a sense of discovery, allowing the audience to temporarily step away from everyday reality. This form of emotional escape is especially important in animated entertainment where visual possibilities are not restricted by realism. The broader theme also contributes to the movie's emotional appeal. Ideas connected with acceptance, cooperation, courage, and understanding can resonate because they reflect experience that audience recognize in their own lives. Viewers of different simple emotional reaction, while older viewers may connect them to relationship, communities, or personal experience involving change and belonging. Another important element is the emotional effect of contrast. A movie that remains cheerful from beginning to end can feel pleasant, but emotional variation often make the experience more memorable. Moment of uncertainty, tension, or reflection can make humor and relief feel more effective when they return. This changing rhythm allows the audience to experience more than one emotional state without shifting the film into a consistently serious or heavy tone. The viewer experience may also benefit from a sense of comfort and accessibility. Family oriented animation often create emotional connection by offering an environment that feels welcoming. The audience know that the movie is intended to entertain rather than emotionally exhaust them. This can make it suitable for shared viewing where children, teenagers, and adults experience the same film from different perspectives. For genre fans, the emotional connection may come partially from familiarity. Viewers who already enjoy animated comedy or fantasy may enter the movie with an existing appreciation for its style. At the same time, the film needs enough imagination and personality to create a fresh experience. The strongest connection occurs when familiar genre elements are presented with distinctive mood and creative identity. Overall, it is likely to connect emotionally through a combination of laughter, imagination, warmth, curiosity, and relatable theme. Its intended viewer experience appears to be uplifting rather than emotionally overwhelming. By balancing playful entertainment with theme of acceptance, courage, and cooperation, the movie has the potential to appeal to different age group on different level. The result is an emotional experience designed not only to entertain audience in the moment but also to leave them in a positive sense of connection to the ideas and feeling behind the film. When analyzing the main character of the film, it is useful to focus on their broader personality type and actorial type roles they represent rather than a specific event. In a reviewer perspective, the effectiveness of the character would depend largely on how well their personalities complement the movie's animated comedy, fantasy atmosphere, and emotional theme. In the main character can be viewed through the archetype of the energetic outsider or conventional protagonist. This type of character is often defined by curiosity, spontaneity, determination, and tendency to approach situation differently from more traditional figure. The personality may include both strength and weakness, creating opportunities for emotional development. A character who is naturally enthusiastic but occasionally impulsive, for example, it can provide comedy while also representing theme of learning and personal growth. Another important archetype is the contrasting companion or opposite personality. This character type often brings balance to the main figure through different traits, where one personality may be impulsive and other may be cautious, where one is optimistic and other may be spectacle or practical. From a reviewer perspective, this contrast is valuable because strong character dynamics are often built through differences rather than similarity. The personality can create humor, emotional balance, and thematic depth without requiring complex dramatic characterization. The movie fantasy-oriented element may also introduce characters who represent the archetype of the misunderstood figure. Such a personality can reflect theme of acceptance and the danger of judging others based on appearance or reputation. The acceptance effectiveness of this type of character depend on whether the writing give the personality even enough individuality. A reviewer would look for traits that go beyond simply representing a message. Humor, vulnerability, intelligence, confidence, or unpredictability can make a archetypal character feel more memorable. Supporting personalities may include the comic relief archetype, which is especially important in animated entertainment. These characters often depend on physical comedy, exaggerated behavior, enthusiasm, or unexpected reaction. However, successful comic characters need more than repeated jokes. Their personality should contribute to the overall tone of the film and provide a recognizable identity. When handled well, comic relief can become one of the strongest emotional connections between the movie and its audience. Another possible archetype is the responsible or cautious figure representing order, logic, or restraint. This personality can serve as a contrast to more chaotic characters and help create balance within the overall cast. The interaction between different personality types can make the character group feel more dynamic, particularly when the movie explores theme of cooperation and understanding. From a critical perspective, the strongest character design would come from combining recognizable archetype with individual personality traits. Familiar roles are useful because audience quickly understand them, but originality comes from giving each character distinctive behavior, humor, emotional qualities, and motivation. In an animated fantasy movie, expression, voice performance, and visual design would also play an important role in defining personality. Overall, the character in this film can be analyzed as a combination of energetic protagonists, contrasting personalities, misunderstood figure, comic archetype, and more responsible counterpart. Their effectiveness would depend on how naturally these personality traits support the film theme of acceptance, cooperation, and personal growth while maintaining the light-hearted tone expected from an animated fantasy comedy. The voice performances in this film are one of the film's most important creative strengths, particularly because the cast combines established Minions performance with a group of highly recognizable actors. Pierre's coffin, who voiced the Minions, remain central to the movie's identity, while the principal cast include Alison Janney as Olivia and Christopher Waltz as Max and Jeff Bridges as Frank and Elwood, Jesse Eisenberg as Dot, Zoe Deutsch as Debbie, and Trey Parker as Gumi. Pierre Coffin's contribution carries a special importance because his vocal work is closely connected with the personality and comic rhythm of the minions themselves. Their unusual language and highly physical style of humor require more than conventional dialogue delivery. Coffin's performance depends on sound, rhythm, vocal reaction, and emotional timing. The result is a form of voice acting that must communicate personality. Even when traditional dialogue is limited, that distinctive vocal style remains essential to the energy of the film. Among the human and supporting voice, Alison Janney brings a strong, recognizable vocal presence to Olivia. Her voice has the ability to combine confidence, sharp timing, and emotional control, making her well suited to an animated production that moves between comedy and more sincere moments. Christopher Waltz and Max offer a contrasting style. His controlled delivery and distinctive voice can give the character a more deliberate personality, creating an effective differences from the broader and more chaotic energy surrounding the minions. Jeff Bridges' voices both Frank and Elwood add another layer of personality through his naturally recognizable vocal tone. His performance style can bring warmth and individuality to the animated environment. Meanwhile, Jesse's Eisenberg as Dot contribute a faster and more energetic vocal rhythm. His familiar delivery style can work effectively with a comedy-driven ensemble, particularly when balanced against performer with deeper or a more restrained voice. Zoe Deutsch bring a lighter and expressive vocal quality to debuting, adding further variety to the ensemble. Trey Parker as Goomy is especially well suited to the film's comedic atmosphere because of his experience with animated comedy, distinctive vocal characterization. The supporting cast is further strengthened by Bobby Moynihan as Phillips and Phil Lamar as Howard, both of whom bring experience and flexibility to voice performance. The most important element is, however, is chemistry. Minions and Monster bring together very different vocal personalities. Coffin, energetic, Minions wise, Jenny's authority, Wald's control, delivery, Bridges warm, Eisenberg nervous system, Deutsch expressiveness, and Parker comedic unpredictability. This contrast prevents the ensemble from surrounding uniform and give the movie a broader emotional and comedic range. Overall, the acting performance worked best because of diversity of the cast. Pierre, Coffin, Allison Janney, Christopher Waltz, Jeff Bridges, Jesse Eisenberg, Zoe Deutsch, Trey Parker, Bobby Moynihan, and Phil Lamar each contribute a distinct vocal identity. Their combined chemistry help create an animated experience that feels energetic, humorous, expressive, and emotionally engaging without relying on plot even to establish the strength of the performance. Although it exists within an animated and fantastical setting, realism can still be measured through the emotional credibility of its character. Realism in this type of movie does not remain realistic environment or ordinary situation. Instead, it comes from whether the personalities, emotions, and personal development feel understandable to the audience. Even the most imaginative animated world need character whose reaction, emotional struggle feel convincing enough to create a meaningful connection. The film's character development is most effective when personalities are allowed to have recognizable strength and weakness. A character becomes more believable when they are not presenting as entirely perfect or completely one-dimensional. Traits such as confidence, insecurity, impulsiveness, curiosity, or stubbornness can create a sense of individuality. The emotional depth of the character depends on whether these traits influence how they think and respond to challenges. For characters associated with broad comedy, maintaining depth can be more difficult. The minions voiced by Pierre Coffin are strongly connected with executed physical, human, and energetic vocal expression. Their appeal naturally comes from absurdity and comic unpredictability. However, emotional depth does not always require serious dialogue or dramatic complexity. Even within a highly comedic style, small moment of loyalty, curiosity, concern, or determination can make an animated personality feel more emotionally recognizable. The human and the supporting character can contribute a different kind of believability. The effectiveness of all these performances depend on whether the writing gives each voice a clear emotional identity rather than using recognizable actors simply for their celebrity value. Believability also comes from consistency. Audience are more likely to accept fantastical characters when their personalities follow understandable emotional pattern. A character does not need to behave realistically in every situation, but their reaction should make sense with their established personality. If the emotional response feels random or exists only to create a joke, the sense of depth can awaken. The movie's emotional range is another important factor. A successful family animation would be able to move beyond a simple emotional note. Comedy may remain the dominant tone, but moments of uncertainty, warmth, frustration, affection, or personal reflection can create variation. This emotional contrast makes humor more effective because the audience experience different moods rather than receiving the same time of entertainment throughout. From a reviewer perspective, the depth of the film would depend on how successfully it balances the exaggerated animated style with emotionally understandable personality. The film does not need the psychological complexity of serious drama to create believable character. Instead, its realism relies in emotional truth, whether viewers can recognize feelings, motivation, and personal qualities beneath the fantasy and comedy. It has the potential to achieve character depth through clear development, emotional consistency, and a varied emotional range. Its animated world may be unrealistic, but the strongest personalities can still feel genuine. When humor is supported by recognizable emotions and consistent characterization, the audience can connect with the character beyond the visual spectacle, giving the movie greater emotional weight and lasting appeal. The production budget of the film is reported at approximately $85 million. This figure has been cited by major box office and industry sources, and it is consistent with reporting on illumination production model. Although film budget can sometimes vary depending on whether individual reporting include only direct production cost or other expenses. From an analytical perspective, $85 million budget places Minion and Monster in a relatively controlled cost range for a major studio animated feature. High-end animated film from larger studio can sometimes cost well above $150 million, particularly when production schedules become lengthy or complex. Visual complexity increased illumination, however, has developed a reputation for maintaining comparatively disciplined budget while still producing film with a polished commercial appearance and broad international appeal. The reported $85 million budget reflects this more conscious production strategy. A substantial portion of the budget would have been allocated to the animation process itself. Computer animation requires large team of artists, animator, technical specialists, lighting expert, effect artists, and production staff. The film 1920 Hollywood setting, monster design, and large-scale animated environment would also require considerable work in modeling, texturing, lighting, and compositing and visual effect. The official studio material identify the film as an animated family comedy produced with the illumination established production system. Another area of resource allocation would involve voice performance and creative development. The cast include Pierre, Coffin, Allison Janney, Christopher Waltz, Jeff Bridges, Jesse Eisenberg, Zoe Deutich, Trey Parker, Bobby Mohin, and Phil Lamar. Funding would also support screenplay development, story broadening, editing, music composition, sound design, and other post-production work required to complete a theatrical animated feature. Compared with familiar animated production, the $85 million figure demonstrates illumination strategy of producing franchise entertainment at a lower cost than many competing blockbuster studios. The Associated Press specifically noted that the studio emphasized on budget discipline and reported that the film was capped at approximately $85 million even while competing in a market where animated blockbuster can carry much higher production cost. It is also important to separate the production budget from the movie's complete financial investment. The $85 million budget figure referred primarily to the cost of making the film, marketing, advertising, distribution, promotional partnership, and other release-related expense can add substantially to the total amount invested by the studios. Overall, it represents a relatively efficient large-scale animated production. Its reported $85 million budget provides resources for additional digital animation, voice talents, visual development, music, sound, and extensive post-production, while remaining below the budget associated with some of the industry's most expensive animated film. This controlled financial approach is consistent with Illumination's broader production strategy of combining moderate cost with globally marketable animated entertainment. The domestic box office performance of the film provided an interesting picture of a film that achieved a solid theatrical run while facing strong competition and high expectation associated with the wider Despicable Me and Minion franchise in the North American market, defined primarily as the United States and Canada. The film earned approximately $181.5 million. Its opening weekend brought in around $37 million from 4243 theater, giving it a wild commercial launch and an immediate position at the top of the domestic box office. The opening itself was respectable, although the longer term context is important. A $37 million opening weekend represented a strong start for a family oriented animated release, but it was more modest than the launches associated with some earlier entries in the broader franchise's career. In interesting contrast, the movie did not being as one of the biggest opening in franchise history, yet its performance demonstrated enough audience interest to sustain a substantial domestic total. Audience trend during the theatrical run suggests that the film benefited from relatively steady attendance after its opening. Its second weekend declined by approximately 43%, followed by a smaller percentage drop of roughly 36% and 28% during the next two weekends. These hold indicate that the movie maintained a reasonable level of interest beyond its initial release, particularly among family audience who often attend animated films over several weeks rather than concentrating all demand into the opening weekend. By the end of its major theatrical run, the film domestic total reached approximately $181.5 million. According to the number, the domestic market accounted for around 36% of the movie's worldwide box office, meaning that the international market ultimately contributed a larger share of the ticket revenue. Comparison with smaller films are more important when evaluating these results. In absolute terms, $181 million is a significant domestic gross for an animated feature and demonstrates substantial audience demand. However, franchise comparison create a more complicated interpretation. Entertainment industry coverage described the film as the lowest domestic earner among the main film in the Despicable Me franchise at that point is its run, largely because earlier franchise installment established exceptionally high commercial standard. Competition also influenced the film's domestic position during its theatrical run. The North American marketplace include major releases such as Toy Story 5, The Odyssey, and later Spider-Man Brand New Day. By early August, the film was competing against several large-scale releases while continuing to remain with the domestic box office ranking. The Associated Press reported that it was still among the leading films during one of the strongest North American box office weekend of 2026. Overall, the domestic performance of the film can be described as commercially successful in isolation but comparatively modest within its franchise context. Its approximately $181.5 million North American total reflects strong family audience interest and solid theatrical endurance. However, when compared with the exceptionally high standard established by previous Minion and a Despicable Me release, the result appear more restrained. The domestic box office therefore illustrates both the continuing strength of the franchise and increasingly competitive environment facing major animated release. The international box office performance of the film has been particularly important to its overall commercial result. According to the latest available figure, the film has earned approximately $318.6 million outside the United States and Canada, meaning international market account for roughly 64% of its worldwide box office. There is a significant indication that the movie appeal extends well beyond the North American market. Its worldwide total has reached over $500.1 million, with overseas audience providing the largest share of the theatrical revenue. The strongest international performance came from a picture of Asia, Europe, and European and Latin American markets. China emerged as the single largest overseas territory, contributed approximately $45.6 million. The United Kingdom followed with around $23 million, while France and Germany each generated more than $20 million. Mexico also performed strongly with approximately $19 million, demonstrated that continuing value of Latin American audience for large-scale animated releases. Australia, Spain, Poland, Italy, South Korea, Japan, Brazil added further support across multiple regions. The regional spread is important because it shows that the film did not depend entirely on one international territory. Europe provides several of its strongest markets, particularly the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Spain. In the Asia Pacific region, China delivered the largest individual contribution, while Australia, Japan, South Korea, Vietnam, and other markets add meaningful revenue. Latin America also remain an important part of the film's overseas performance, while Mexico standing out as the strongest market in that region. From a market reception perspective, these results suggest that the recognizable Minion brand retains substantial global appeal. Animation often travel effectively across international markets because visual comedy and expressive character design can be understood with fewer cultural barriers than dialogue-heavy delivery. The broad family-oriented positioning of the film likely also help expand its potential audience across different countries and age groups. Marketing and franchise recognition were likely major factor in supporting the international rollout. The film was released across multiple territories beginning in late June 2026 before its July 1 domestic appeal. This executed international strategy allowed the distributor to build theatrical visibility across Europe, Australia, Latin America, and Asia. The established global familiarity of the film's Minions brand also reduced the challenge of introducing an entirely unknown property to international audience. The international performance became even more significant when compared with the domestic market. While the film earned approximately $181.5 million domestically, overseas territories generated around $318.6 million. This means international audience contributed substantially more to the film's theatrical total than North American audience. Overall, the international box office performance of the film can be described as strong and geographically diverse. China, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Mexico, Australia, and several other markets provide substantial revenue, while the broad global rollout benefit from the established recognition of the Minions franchise. The result demonstrates the international audience was central to the movie's commercial success and helped push its worldwide earning to approximately $500 million. The worldwide financial performance of the film can be evaluated by combining its domestic and international box office earnings with an estimate of the cost required to produce, market, and distribute the film. Based on the figure discussed in the previous section, the movie reached approximately $500 million worldwide, with the international market contributing the largest share of the theatrical revenue. However, worldwide growth should not be confused with the amount of money ultimately returned to the studio, because cinemas return a significant percentage of ticket sale. The most recent figure available from the Box Office Mojo placed the film at approximately $500.1 million worldwide, including about $181.5 million domestically and $318.6 million internationally. The number also lists a reported production budget of $85 million, meaning the worldwide gross is nearly 5.9 times the reported production cost. The revenue split show that the film commercial performance depended heavily on its global audience. International markets generated roughly 64% of the total theatrical earning, demonstrated that the film appeal was stronger overseas than in North America. This broad international reach is especially valuable for an animated franchise because revenue is not dependent on the performance of a single region. Market across Europe, Asia, Pacific, Latin America, and other territories collectively contributed more than $318 million to the theatrical total. A common industry shortcut suggests that a film may need to earn roughly 2 to 2.5 times its production budget worldwide to cover production, marketing, distribution, and other expenses. Using that general model, an $85 million production budget would imply a rough theoretical break-even range of approximately $170 million to $12.5 million. This is an estimate, not an official break-even figure, because the actual calculation depends on marketing spending, exhibitor split, international distribution agreement, and other contractual arrangement. By reaching approximately $500 million worldwide, the film appeared to have moved well beyond the estimated theoretical break-even aim. However, the full studio profit can be calculated simply by abstracting the $85 million budget from the $500 million gross. Movie theater retain the part of the ticket revenue, and the percentage returned to the distributor can vary considerably between the domestic and the international market. Theoretical box office is only one part of the film's financial picture. Additional revenue may come from digital rental, purchase, streaming or licensing agreement, physical media, television rights, and merchandise connected to the franchise. It also receives a home entertainment release, creating an additional potential revenue stream beyond cinemas. Distribution costs may also be considered. These can include advertising campaign, trailers, promotional partnership, localization, dubbing, subtitling, theatrical delivery, and release expenses across multiple international territories. Such a global release requires substantial marketing and distribution resources. The total investment is higher than the production budget alone. It can be considered a commercially successful theatrical release based on its reported budget and worldwide gross. With approximately $500 million in global ticket sale against an $85 million reported production budget, the film generated a strong revenue to cost ratio. The exact profit remain undisclosed, but the available figures strongly suggest that it surpassed the conventional estimated break-even threshold and benefited significantly from its international audience and additional post-theatrical revenue opportunities. Based on the reported figure, the film appeared to have been a profitable release with an estimated production budget of around $85 million and worldwide box office earning of approximately $500 million. The film generated theatrical revenue far above its direct production cost. However, worldwide box office should not be confused with studio profit. Movie theaters retain a percentage of ticket sale, and the studio must also cover marketing, advertising, distribution, localization, and other release related expenses. Therefore, subtracting the $85 million production budget directly from $500 million worldwide gross would not provide an accurate net profit figure. Even after accounting for these additional costs, the film appeared to have performed comfortably above a conventional estimated break-even range. A commonly used industry guideline suggests that a major theatrical release may need to earn roughly 2 to 2.5 times its production budget worldwide to recover production and release-related costs, although actual calculations vary from film to film. On that basis, an $85 million production budget would suggest an estimated break-even range of approximately $170 million to $12.5 million, with a worldwide gross nearly $500 million. Minions and Monster appear to have exceeded that range by considerable margin. The relationship between revenue and cost is particularly important in that case. The film's worldwide gross was roughly 5.9 times its reported production budget, indicated a strong gross to cost ratio. While this does not represent a precise ROI calculation, it suggests that the studio achieved significantly commercial efficacy, especially compared with production carrying substantially higher production. The film also had potential ancillary income beyond theatrical exhibition, digital purchase and rental, physical media such as Blu-rays and DVD, streaming arrangement, television licensing, and franchise-related merchandise can all generate additional revenue from an established brand association with the Minions. And despite Me franchise. These secondary income sources may add meaningful long-term financial value. The exact revenue generated from these areas has not been publicly disclosed through a precise total profit can't be calculated. From a ROI perspective, the available evidence support a positive assessment. The relatively controlled production budget reduced the financial risk while the strong international box office expanded the overall revenue base. The international market contributed a larger share of worldwide earnings than the domestic market, making global distribution an important part of the movie's financial success. It can be reasonably be described as profitable based on the available production budget and worldwide gross figure. Although the exact net profit and ROI remain undisclosed, its theoretical earnings substantially exceeded its reported production costs, while additional home entertainment, licensing, streaming, and merchandise revenue would further strengthen its financial return. Audience reaction to the film can be understood through the different expectations of children, family, animation fan, and long-time follower of the broader franchise. General viewers' engagement appear to have been the strongest among our audience looking for light, accessible entertainment rather than a complex or demanding cinematic experience. The film's animated format, recognizable brand identity, likely made it particularly attractive to younger viewers and family audience. Children and younger audience are generally more responsive to visual humor, energetic pacing, expressive animation, and a fast-moving overall style. From this demographic, engagement is often based on how consistently the movie maintain attention and deliver an entertaining experience. A colorful visual presentation and broad comedic approach can create an immediate connection, making the film suitable for viewers who primarily want fun and easy to follow entertainment. Family audience may have responded differently. Parents and older viewers often evaluate animated films not only on whether children enjoy them but also on whether the movie provides enough humor, creativity, and production quality to remain enjoyable for adults. The strongest audience response from this demographic would likely come from the film's ability to work as a shared entertainment, allowing different age groups to engage with the same experience in different ways. Viewer feedback can also be influenced by familiarity with the larger Minions brand. Long-time fans may enter the film with established expectations regarding its humor, animation style, and overall tone. This familiarity can encourage strong initial interest and engagement, but it can also create higher expectations. Some viewers may be satisfied by a familiar format, while others may look for a greater sense of originality or freshness. The movie theatrical performance also suggests meaningful audience engagement. Its worldwide gross of approximately $500 million with a particularly strong contribution from international market indicate that the film attract audience across multiple regions. The movie themes also give it some value beyond visual entertainment. Ideas connect with acceptance, cooperation, courage, and understanding are appropriate for a family-oriented animated film because they can be communicated to younger viewers without becoming overly complicated. These themes provide emotional structure and allow the movie to offer a positive message alongside comedy and fantasy element. However, the film also has potential weakness. Its familiar brand identity make it difficult to avoid comparison with earlier Minions and Despicable Me films. For some viewers, the recognizable style can be confronting and entertaining, but others may feel that the formula limits originality. The film may also be less appealing to audience looking for complex characterization, mature theme, or significant character depth. It is best suited when judged according to its intended purpose. It is a large scale family animated film designed to entertain, amuse, and appeal to a broad audience rather than challenge viewers with serious psychological or artistic complexity. Its strength behind include polished production values, energetic voice performance, accessible theme, and strong visual appeal, while its main weakness is the possibility of feeling too dependent on familiar franchise expectation. As a final reviewer opinion, the film can be seen as a solid and commercially successful animated experience that delivers professional entertainment, even if it may not represent the most ambitious or groundbreaking entry in its genre. The film is specially recommended for viewers with the genre preferences for animated fantasy and comedy, audience who enjoy exaggerated humor, imaginative visual design, unusual creation, energetic paces, and playful atmosphere are likely to respond most positive. Fans of family-oriented animation may also appreciate the movie's accessible theme, including ideas related to acceptance, cooperation, courage, and understanding. Emotionally, the film seems best suited to viewers seeking a generally positive, uplifting, and entertaining experience. It is not the ideal choice for someone especially looking for a dark psychological drama, realistic character study, or deeply serious emotional experience. Its emotional resonance is more likely to come from warmth, humor, imagination, and broadly relatable theme than from intense dramatic complexity. The movie may be less suitable for viewers who have grown tired of familiar franchise style animation or who expect every animated feature to offer major artistic innovation. Those who prefer slow paced storytelling, subtitle humor, realistic filmmaking, or a mature subject matter may find its energetic and exaggerated style less appealing. Overall, it is recommended for children, families, animation enthusiasts, fantasy, comedy fans, long-time followers, and of the Minions brand. It is best approached with the expectation of visually polished, playful, and accessible animated experience. Viewers looking for laughter, imaginative style, positive thing, and a comfortable family moving atmosphere are the most likely to enjoy it, while audience seeking serious or sophisticated animated depth may want something more mature and challenging.